Hey everybody. So my friend, futurist and actor Chris Emerson, has been using glass for almost 2 months now. I recently met up with him at Tiago Coffee Bar, a hip little coffee spot on the Hollywood Walk of Fame right outside Don Johnson's Star. Over some lattes, he was kind enough to share his experiences using glass.
Yeah, hey, we're shooting here, guys. Can we close this?
Oh, look, they did it.
Can we shut the set down? Can we do that?
Yeah, close set, please.
So people have to give you all kinds of crazy looks and stuff all the time.
Yeah. So just as we're setting this up, right, and this happens a bunch because it's a product. What's fascinating is this is a product that is not out yet at all. And the most interesting part about that to me, having it, is that people haven't got to be socialized yet about it. Because like when an Apple product comes out, it's cool, it's Apple. So,
but it hits a zeitgeist very quickly. Like it's out in the environment very quickly, and people get exposed to it very quickly.
Super quickly. And like it's fascinating that for every 20 people that come up to me or point and say, is that Google Glass specifically? There's only like one person that comes up and says, hey, what's that?
Right.
I mean, they just know what it is, and this is, and it doesn't have any branding on, it doesn't say Google on the side, it doesn't say Glass or anything like that, and people know it by brand and product title. They just know what it is. Right. And it's fascinating, that awareness that's out there because of what Google's done with it.
Well, I think that's really interesting that you bring it up that way, because I really felt watching the initial product announcements for Glass.
Yeah.
This was Google trying to be ubiquitous. This wasn't Google trying to slap a logo. This wasn't Google trying to raise their mind share. It was them trying to get out of the way.
Yeah.
So that they had an easier time collecting advertising data and stuff like that.
And I'll tell you how much so. When I went to pick them up, which was an amazing experience. You go to Google, and they're really, really hands-on with you. They're so cool. You go in, you have a representative that walks you through the process. You sit down for your fitting. They show you everything. Because they want...
Spared no expense.
Spared no expense. Spared no expense.
Oh yeah, you can let go once it's recording.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and then if the white bar is going across the bottom, you tap on it, and then tap to confirm that you want to extend.
And if I don't tap or confirm...
It'll stop at 10 seconds.
And that's even if it... And that it has to be the confirmation, I'm guessing. So, okay, just little things.
So then to stop, you can either press the camera button or tap the touchpad.
When was it? It was actually at some point during the orientation of things I noticed. Oh, you know what it was? I was doing an Instagram video.
Right.
I wanted to put together like an Instagram
process.
Kind of a process video of kind of these clips through the whole thing. And right at the end, toward the end, I looked around and I realized, because I wanted to finish off with the Google logo.
Right.
Like I wanted to kind of go like,
and there wasn't one.
And there wasn't one. I said, what's up with that? They actually don't want it to be Google Glass.
Right.
They want it to be branded as Glass. It is a standalone entity that is Glass.
I'm sure. So they must love whenever you see someone in public talk about the Google goggles.
Google goggles, especially. Yeah. I was in New Orleans. I was going through a cemetery.
That's a story right there.
As you do.
In New Orleans.
Actually, we'll show the picture. I have amazing pictures actually with Glass in the cemetery. And it's part of that camera perspective thing we'll talk about, that capturing life. But we're there, and I'm doing it, and this older couple, right? The guy points at me because he sees me doing pictures or talking to him, or it's just different, right?
Yeah.
and he says, "Hey, what are those?" And before I could even answer, his wife pipes right in. She says, "Oh, those are them camera glasses. Those are those camera glasses. Can you see ghosts with those?" And I said, "Yeah, these are ghost seeing glasses. There's an app. You know, it's gonna be Google ghost seeing glasses.
My electromagnetic detector."
Right. Yeah. But
well, I think ghost hunters are missing out on some very valuable branding opportunities.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, could you imagine once it's opened up to an entire Android marketplace of apps? Do you know how many ghost seeing apps there are going to be for this thing?
Even just the Ghostbusters detector thing.
There's plenty of resources out there and reviews that have been done about the tech itself, what it's capable of, how much memory's on board.
I've been a little disappointed. I mean, here's my rant, guys. I've been a little disappointed because we saw all of these great pitches, if I had Glass. And so then Google Glass made it out into the ecosystem, and barring the people that tried to pay them off via Indiegogo campaigns and stuff like that, I've really just been treated to a lot of pictures of people's pets
Right.
through glass.
Through glass. Hashtag through glass.
But it made me sad, and I wanted to share that with you.
And that's why we're sitting here now. Because if I'm going to sit down with anybody in this world and talk about glass, it's you, my friend.
This guy.
Yeah, and I get. I mean, they open up the developer program to the Explorer program, of putting in the hands of people, different lifestyles and whatnot. And I think that between the pet pictures and sort of and from the tech side, kind of the simplification of it, the simplification of the experience definitely could be the end result of pet pictures.
Right. Because it's a 5 megapixel camera which shoots 720p video. Done.
Yeah. So the oversimplification of the camera and what it can do down to pet pictures, I feel the same way about the tech side of where kind of the interface and kind of the usability of it has been done in reviews, where it's kind of like, well, it's got 16 gigs on it. I think it's 16 gigs on board. It has a certain megapixel. It has this. You can send text messages. Yes, you can do all that. But what I think is far more important, what I found to be much more interesting, and ultimately what I think Google's end game is it's such a radically different interface in terms of how you not only interface with data but life. Right? I find myself interfacing with life more.
But that's interesting because so many of the early criticisms from people who didn't get a chance to play with them, sort of pontificating, was, but isn't that going to be distracting? I'm sitting opposite you, and there's a display up there, and isn't that going to be distracting when a piece of information hits your eye?
Oh, wait a second, I just got a text message. Hold on.
That's what I was saying!
Sorry, wait, one sec. Okay, now, wait, what were you saying?
As opposed to just like
how distracting is that?
Just like the little eyeball movement up to see if there's something.
The difference between what I just did there and this is if I'm looking at you here is literally this. That's how distracting that was to disconnect with you from that. In that moment, and I have this happen. I have this happen where I'm having a conversation with these on, and a text message comes in. Now, you're not wearing them, I'm wearing them. That happens to you. You have to do what I just did. You create your little isolation cone
and even
of
going to
like
a smartwatch or something, I have to break this.
It's break this, right? And so with me, I see a text message come in, and I can instantly see it. I can see who it's from, what it says, and how important it is to respond in this moment. Right. Do I need to disconnect at all from this conversation to handle it?
Or at least very minimally.
Or very minimally, yeah. And you're up out in the world more. You're up here, without the touching of the screen little bubble thing. His TED Talk, Sergey Brin, on stage, made a huge point about that specifically. Right. That he finds himself not doing this. And realizing how much we do this as almost like a nervous twitch. Totally. Like checking for things, even if it doesn't vibrate or doesn't go off.
No, I'm totally programmed.
Just in case we missed something.
Absolutely.
To check and see any emails or text things. And it's really nice. It's really nice not to do that as much. The phone stays in my pocket more, and that nervous twitch of checking goes away. And in that same way of being up out in the world, the observation, the ability to kind of still maintain interface with life without disconnecting from it, is the camera. Right. And when Google first came out with the product, it was all about the camera, right? Like we saw all these promo videos.
Like, here's a guy skydiving and
the guy
BMX racers.
Yeah, that huge keynote thing. It was amazing. It was amazing. But even when I watched that, I was like, okay, that's fine. But it just felt like
GoPro.
And that's what everybody said. Oh, it's a GoPro camera. It's a really expensive GoPro camera with a glass piece. And you don't really get this. You don't really realize this until you really start to use it. It's radically different. It's radically different in that right now, if something goes on, I reach up and I can just snap a picture like that. Literally just
You just took a picture right now.
I just took a picture.
I don't believe you had my permission, sir.
Privacy issues about. That's something to talk about in a second.
We can talk about that later.
Yeah, or I can reach up and I can hold it down
and start shooting video.
And do a 10-second video or reach up and extend it, right? And do it again. I can also activate that by voice.
When I can actually see, there's something happening in the iris.
Right. Which is especially great at night, because that little glass totally makes you look like you have Terminator eye. Right. That glowing. But the thing that I found, though, is it's radically different. First of all, you just don't walk around with a GoPro camera on your head.
Right.
I have this on my head for different reasons other than just wanting to have a camera on my face.
Totally.
I have this because I'm interfacing with my data and I'm using it as a communications tool.
Right.
In a whole bunch of different fantastic ways. And so it's already there. The difference is I don't have to, if I want to take a picture or a video, I don't have to do this and create this
barrier.
shield, this barrier where I all of a sudden isolate myself. Every time we lift up a camera, it isolates us as observer to whatever was going on.
Right.
And a lot of times we're interacting. Before that moment happens, we're in that action.
And I think you can definitely speak because we're both SLR pals. We both shoot Canon. And there also becomes that expectation of like friends events. Like if they see you bring your camera, that you're not actually going to get to go participate in the event.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're sort of there to chronicle other people having fun.
Right.
Which is very frustrating because I would also like to have fun.
Exactly. Not only the observer, right, which I think is a great thing, where I remain in the action.
Right.
You know, I flip on the video and hands are free and I'm still interacting with whatever the event is. But the event itself responds differently to me.
Oh, because you don't have a big eyeball staring people down.
Right. When you become the guy behind the 7D, you know, and people realize that you're taking pictures of them.
That's like, because I just got back from a family reunion, and it probably took me a third of the event just to get people comfortable with the camera coming up, so that I didn't get a whole bunch of pictures of
exactly
people like suspiciously staring down my camera lens because I was pointing the camera at them.
And part of that might go away with glass becoming more common.
Right.
Because right now it's unexpected. It's not expected that I might be taking a picture or a video.
Right.
And that goes into privacy stuff, and I really don't think it's that big of an issue that's been made.
I don't think it's any larger an issue than the fact that we're always walking around with cameras anyway.
Yeah, I agree. And just because it happens, it doesn't mean that it's on, and it's not really subtle. Like, I have to either do this, and it's just like this, you know, to take a picture, or I have to say it out loud. Hey, glass, take a video. You know?
I think it'll be a faster learning curve. You know, I think it'll be a faster society acclimation than the smartphone was.
Yeah.
Because now we're sort of used to everyone walking around with a really nice camera in their pocket 24/7. So it's just going to be about learning the social stigma. Like, it's a new gesture that indicates I'm being observed.
So you're recording a 10-second video.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it may or may not be a good idea. I mean, it's been floated that a little light, a little LED, blue, red, whatever, that indicates that video is currently being taken. You know, so that if I'm looking at you and you see the blue light, you know that I'm taking the video. You know.
Do you not think that the eyepiece glass is enough to indicate?
I think it is. Yeah. I mean, I definitely think it is. It's not very. It's not subtle.
Right.
You know, when you're looking at the person, you know, you just kind of turn off axis and you don't see it anymore. But it's the same thing that was said with Bluetooth headsets, you know? Like you really should have a light on that thing so I know that you're not crazy. You know, so I know you're not a schizophrenic. It'll make me feel better if you have an LED.
That you,
Yeah. So I don't know, you know, or it's like it's all new stuff. I mean, there's a common thread between these things. The way they want to put sound on electric cars.
Right. Well, I mean, like, because I kind of feel tire noise is enough, and especially as more electrics and hybrids hit the streets, we won't have to make noise over other combustion engines.
Right. There you go. So yeah, it works perfectly.
Although when I do get an electric car, I really want the Jetsons car.
The sound. And so, where were we? But back to the experience of things, it's really, really fun and fascinating that because of the awareness out there, I won't have them on somewhere, because I know that I don't want to immediately have that conversation with someone that says, "Oh, hey, are those Google Glass?" and you want to explain everything. And they feel like this. I feel a responsibility to be the ambassador of this new technology.
I think that's adorable because, with the Nissan Leaf, it was also like you had to be the best example of an electric vehicle driver. And so now you're trying to be the most conscientious glassware.
That's
why I enjoy hanging out with Chris here.
Yeah, you know. And so I feel it's important. And so I got these great pictures. I posted this picture of this kid at Mel's Diner the other day.
I saw that one. You're totally wigging out.
Got this look on his face. And my dad says he's freaking out because he's staring into his own future. And but you get those reactions all the time, or you get a fantastic mix of reactions. People to it, it's everything from like handing it to somebody and they go like, oh, cool, wow, that's awesome, amazing.
Right.
People are like into it. Or you have these other people that you offer it to them, and they're like,
it's gonna assimilate my face.
Yeah. and then they're like all twitchy with it on, and they don't know. And it's.
Has anyone reacted negatively to you wearing glass around them?
No, zero. I can honestly say that they'll have their opinions about kind of technology at large, and it'll be this sort of general thing of too much tech, the world too data.
Right. We'll lose our humanity and
lose our You have that, but specifically to glass. And I was actually surprised because my very first trip, just as a cultural, knowing the cultural differences around the country, that I got glass literally the day before I was traveling to Biloxi, Mississippi, deep south for.
I mean, like one of the most tech progressive areas of the country, I'm sure. I'm sorry, Biloxi. That came out really snarky. It came out way meaner than I intended it to.
Indeed, they are. We love you, Biloxi, Mississippi. So I mean, traveling immediately was a fascinating experience because I go from Los Angeles, and I actually could kind of feel the cultural difference as I traveled because I went through Texas and then. And then into New Orleans and then to Biloxi onwards, right? And interacting with people along the way, either on airplanes or in the airport terminals or even the rental car company, and you just kind of get these responses.
Right.
And the further you got, I realized the awareness shifted to kind of being a little less tech savvy about it and just kind of more odd curiosity, like almost like going from like we get what it is and it's fascinating and I don't know much about it and I'm intrigued to what is this sort of bizarre absurdity and tell me why I should or shouldn't like it. But at no time, and I was actually kind of expecting this because of what's been said.
A lot of big stories, like especially that one bar. It was like no Google Glass in our bar.
Yeah, the bar banning it and stuff, and I was actually kind of.
You were waiting for it to happen.
I was waiting for it to happen. I was waiting, like, who's going to be the first person? And is like, what are you pointing the camera at me? I was like, I'm sorry. I'll put them on the back of my head. No one has an issue with a camera naturally being pointed at them.
Right.
At all. They don't make the assumption that, are you recording me right now? Or there's some paranoia. They get that I'm not just recording all the time, or that I'm not just taking a picture, and that it's something that, I was surprised. I was actually surprised that never came up.
I still think that a lot of those concerns were.
I think it's more of a straw man issue. I think it's way more of just something.
Because it's not like, we have the capability to do that now. I could walk around taking video of everything that I wanted to right now.
How different would it be if I just walked around like this?
We already have sort of a socially accepted behavior for these types of cameras in our environment. Yeah. And it's don't be an asshole. Right? Like the general rule, usually for most things, comes down to don't be an asshole.
Just life.
Right.
Life. Don't be an asshole.
What I'm always curious about is what someone else's sort of anticipation of that is. Because, I mean, we're in a very sort of heightened state of aggravation. It's really easy to trip someone into sort of like a visceral response, like a sort of a reality TV confrontation or something like that.
Or just imagined dilemmas or imagined problems.
Right.
It's really an imaginary problem to think that if everybody had a camera on their head, somehow that would be a problem.
Right.
You don't know that. And in all honesty, I think it'd actually be a better thing. I think you'd have, and it's already happened, the fact that we carry these around. The democratization of Big Brother is the best thing to happen. The more cameras, the more democratization, the more the power is spread out, and it's, it's a larger issue. But it's the Boston bombers were caught in 48 hours, having mostly to do with the fact that we all carry around these HD cameras.
Right, and we were able to feed all of that information very quickly to law enforcement.
Yeah, so I mean, if you have more people that are getting this perspective this easily, this readily, I don't see any problem with that. I don't see people's privacy being taken away from them or invaded at all. The privacy issue I think is really is a non-issue.
And it really made me mad when people started bringing up like, well, what happens when you're in a gym locker room? And like, you take them off.
Right.
I mean, well, because I think as a sort of a philosophical standpoint on the nature of humanity and technology, I think it's interesting that like glass is actually for me going to be one of those gestures.
Yeah.
Like, the most meaningful gesture that I can make to someone now is when I'm having a meal with you. Now I can just take my glass off.
Right.
and that means I want to be wholly invested in this exchange right now.
Right.
You know, during the day, during the work day, obviously I'm going to leave them on. We're going to have a power lunch, whatever, blah, 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 blah. But when I go home to my wife, I make a point out of I'm going to turn off my cell phone for this time right now.
Exactly, yeah.
And so now it's like it's an even easier gesture to make. You know, like
Right.
it's a very clear indication that like
I do this all the time. I mean, it's called the LeBeau, by the way. This is called the LeBeau, and I found out why from Google. Things at Google tend to be named after the first person that does them. So apparently, someone named LeBeau went, whoop, and that became the LeBeau. But yeah, it's the same type of thing. I mean, we don't walk around. I don't walk into gym locker rooms with my camera phone out. You know. Oh, and the traveling was great. Immediately traveling with them, you instantly start to, or I started to find immediate ways how it integrates into your life. It's the experience of it. You know, the experience of having it on, not just going like on a text sheet, on a text spec sheet. Oh, I can send text messages with it, or I can do a hangout. Neat. But when you actually really start to go through and you're like, okay, Glass, Google, flight status, American Airlines 1098. Let's hope 1098 is an actual flight. Yeah, from Tucson to Dallas Fort Worth, Texas, 5:55 a.m. scheduled. Departure time, on time, gate A8, C terminal. It's going to arrive at C22 at Dallas Fort Worth. So
it's seamless.
Is seamless
Right.
and fantastic when you're walking through the big old backpack of equipment
Right.
and luggage that you're toting, and they're changing your flight because I was using puddle jumper, you know, to get to
Right.
Biloxi you have to.
right.
And so they tend to move around gates a lot and times and whatnot. And so yeah, I mean, that immediately was something that was different.
Do you think some of the commentary on Google Glass is chilled because it just becomes that ubiquitous part of the Android experience? Do you think that maybe some of the reason why, like, it was super hot, we're all talking about it, it's on NPR, the future of technology, cyborg interfaces, and then, like, next week, we'd already moved on to, like, what the next phone announcement was going to be.
Right,
But
right.
do you think part of that is just because it does a good enough job of getting it out of its own way?
It's a great question. Yeah, I think so.
Like, it's hard to keep saying, like, really talking about exciting things in the world of tech when we can't throw specs or we can't throw,
Right.
you know, like, here's a video I shot from it. Well, you're not really seeing glass. You're seeing the video shot from glass.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so it's hard to continue in a dialogue of excitement or pushing a message out when the whole point of the product is to not be...
Right, yeah, because and that is a huge part why I wanted to do this with you and to talk about it, is because as best we could, instead of just kind of showing you video through glass or talking about the tech side of it, of what it does, as best we could kind of, or as best I could, from having it for about a month and a half, convey what it's like to experience life and to interface with things that you just can't get even from Sergey Brin on stage at TED Talk.
Right.
You know, because
the best you'll get is anecdotal.
Yeah, you get anecdotal stuff, and so even this, I don't even really expect to completely convey what I've experienced, because I've had a very, very positive experience with it. Having a lot to do with it. I'm a big time tech optimist. I don't like look at stuff.
Yeah.
It's not the perfect device. There are plenty of things that
need polish.
Polish, and will be though. And I don't need to focus on those things and shoot this down because of those things.
Right.
Knowing that Gen 2, because then we could have just written off the iPhone the very first time it came out. It didn't even come with 3G.
You couldn't even do apps on it.
You couldn't do
you had
apps.
to do web apps.
It wasn't even 3G. It was Edge.
Yeah, why would you even buy the iPhone 2G? You're dumb.
Yeah, why would you buy any iPhone in the future ever? The first one didn't even come with 3G. So it's like, you know, so yeah, people say like, oh, you think this is the future? No, actually, this is right now.
Right.
It's on my face right now. This is right now.
This is today.
I think this is the beginning of something very big, though. I think this is the beginning of a future trend of fantastic possibility in wearable computing. And I think that not so much because of the actual tangible tech that's on my face,
right,
but the future possibilities and the present ways I've been able to interface,
right,
and do things very differently.
Set
in
up
my
the
life.
potential for some creative outcomes.
Very much so.
I like because I think that's what's kind of cool is you already start talking specs and you're like, oh, it's got a 720p camera. Oh, I don't have a 1080p camera. You're like, so people already start getting whiny, first world problem-y about, you know, what the bullet points are. But that also makes me really curious what, you know, if we'll start incorporating more augmented reality type functionality, more safety functionality. It uses bone conduction for the audio, right?
For the audio, yeah.
I've recently been getting really into that. I'm going to be working with Kyocera to review some of their stuff up soon, and that to me becomes what you were saying, democratization. People who are hard of hearing now have a much better tool to interface with the audio information that they can actually be a part of.
Right.
Let alone just the visual.
Sure.
So all this stuff to me sets up the potential for us to start engaging in a dialogue about where tech can go, because I think the smartphone is plateaued.
I agree. I agree.
And especially seeing Moto X, Google's approach, or Google Motorola's approach to a top-of-the-line smartphone not being hardcore spec-wise.
Right.
That they're really focusing on the experience, the software, what you can do with it, versus just putting in powerful guts that might go unused over the life of a 2-year contract.
Right. And I completely agree. I think what has the potential to be a completely standalone platform, because right now it's not necessarily a standalone platform. It's reliant upon Android's the platform.
Right.
I mean, right now, or it'll be iOS. It'll be both. What Google has said, but it's relying on a platform.
No Windows Phone.
Sorry, Windows.
Take that, Microsoft. We're actually shooting this on 2 Nokias right now, so
yeah.
you're doing fine.
But yeah, that but it has the ability, definitely has the future ability to become something that is truly a standalone platform where this could be everything. There's an interesting thing. There's really no way to show it other than to kind of describe it, which is there's an Easter egg that Google has on board.
Right.
Where you go to licenses, and it's kind of like on Android when you tap the hell out of the license developer thing, and you get the flying jelly beans. With this, you go to licenses, you tap it 9 times, and you get this 360 panorama of the Google team, the Google Glass team, and it's you look around.
And it follows and tracks.
And it follows 100%. Like whoever is standing in front of me here will be there, no matter I turn around here, there, over there, and they're still here. You're in this bubble, and it's like it's there. And I showed it to you, and you start looking around, see the ceiling,
see the ceiling and the floor,
and the floor, and these people, and you start to realize. To me, that is the most powerful example of the potential.
Right.
Because when you start going beyond just a really fun Easter egg picture.
And you start developing for that kind of mentality.
It's augmented reality, even more than the driving. Where it's actually a compass. You see the screen. I was using it walking directions in New Orleans a lot, where you go like, oh, Decatur's over there, and I'm like blocks away. I'm like, okay, so Decatur's over there, and Canal's over there. And you actually see. It
actually becomes sort of like a bird-like sense.
Yeah, totally. And so, but with the panorama, you could create if you haven't seen H+, the web series that Bryan Singer with the whole thing, it becomes like that, where you could actually have a 3-dimensional menu that you can actually look over and know that your app is here, that there's this, you could arrange this, and if they wanted to use the camera as a reference point to actually select things, I mean, it's pretty dangerously close to really having a virtual interface out in front of us that you could interact with.
Because that also becomes one of the next big challenges that I think we're going to be facing with interaction with information are some of the safety aspects of it. It's the year 2013. You've heard me bitch about this before. It's the year 2013, and I still have to take my eyes off the road for a fraction of a second just to see how fast I'm going.
Oh, yeah. Just even that, yeah.
Just to see the odometer.
Yeah.
We should have solved that problem by now.
And GPS, or just driving navigation, is one of my favorite apps.
Right.
Because like I said, immediately I'm thrown into a different city. I'd been to Biloxi briefly, I've never driven around. I had to rent a car in Biloxi for a month and a half. I don't know the city, I don't know anywhere. Right. And so I'm using the turn-by-turn on this a lot. And it quickly became one of my absolute favorite applications of Glass, because I'm looking down the road always. And the turn-by-turn is kind of out there, because the distance from my perspective to where the screen seems to be, it's about 6 feet, let's say, 6 to 8 feet, kind of hovering out there, the size of maybe like a
Right, I think that's also important to mention too, is that it's not like they're trying to make it like those old VR displays from back in like the 90s, where it's like you're immersed, that it is sort of the presence of being feet away from a smaller display.
It is out there, and that's actually something that is a little counterintuitive when you first put them on. Like I put them on somebody, and because the glass piece is so close to your eye, they feel like they have to bring their focus way back, but it's actually further out than you think. You can actually relax your eyes, and it's kind of like, it's out there. And so when you're driving, it feels like it's about the end of your car. It's kind of driving.
Perfect.
It's like outside your windshield,
Right.
and kind of at the end of your car. And because of like if I'm looking into camera, it's sort of above, my eye and not right in front of it like this. I'm seeing down the road, and I can kind of reference the map while driving, and it's none of that inside the car, outside the car, inside the car, outside the car, and it's really, really great. And it's actually one of the things that I hear the most as one of those incorrect assumptions. Dare I call them tech prejudice assumptions?
Right.
But oh great, yet another piece of tech that's going to cause more car accidents.
Right.
And
which is what I was desperately waiting for. Was auto manufacturers don't seem to want to give us a heads-up display in our car.
Right.
Like the kind of not even necessarily the kind of tech that a fighter pilot would engage with, but even just simple speed information, and maybe maybe you could broadcast just an arrow for that ties into my GPS.
Right.
So left turn coming up, right turn coming up, something. But those options have only been on the most expensive cars as the most expensive options.
Right.
And then they're surprised that no one seems to want them. And we're now getting to an era where we're trying to connect our cars and our homes and our phones all together. And that I actually do worry about. I think the screen in the Tesla is amazing. I think it's ridiculously irresponsible to put a smooth surface that can't be operated via tactile sensation low. It's being in the dashboard away from what's happening in the road in front of you.
Right.
Because it takes a higher degree of concentration to interact with something like that.
Sure.
And glass, if you won't put like a dome-mounted projector or like a dashboard-mounted projector to throw that stuff up on my windshield, then I need to move that information closer to my actual senses.
Yeah.
If I'm going to interact with it meaningfully and not kill scores of people in the process of doing
Scores of people.
Tens and tens of people fallen by the wayside because Juan has too many smartphones in his car.
And that's exactly it. I mean, the immediate assumption is like, oh, texting is dangerous in the driving, and I agree. I mean, with the screen and stuff like that, I having experienced this, I prefer this immediately.
Right.
I now instantly prefer having my driving directions down the road in front of me as a heads-up display than referencing my phone inside the car. Hands down, because of that. Because it's better.
Right.
And not the assumption that's made, which is it's worse.
It could be distracting.
It could be distracting. This thing in front of your eye, you're going to kill somebody. Quite the contrary. Quite the contrary. I feel like you now have a better chance of killing somebody because you don't have these. And there's a lot of assumptions like that. I mean, other than the driving, that was a common one. But there's assumptions that get made because it's so different. It's so new.
Right.
It's and just not experienced. It's any assumption that you could make about what it might be like. No matter how close it might get, if it's accurate, it's still not going to get there. And if it's not accurate, it's way off.
Right.
Because it's just so different. I mean, it's sort of, I'm a tech head. I'm a super tech head. And it's still, when you sit down with Google and you put them on for the first time, it's such a different interface. There's no reference of comparison that you can kind of tap into to go, oh, hey, this is like such and such. Or, it's, because even with the touch, it kind of, you kind of get used to the swipe back and forth without accidentally tapping or doing something. The swipe down is different. And for the first few days, I definitely was accidentally calling up entire circles on Google Plus for a hangout that I really didn't want to, or sharing information that I needed immediately to delete. And so there's a little bit of a learning curve. And even Google says not to wear them for more than an hour or two on the first few days because it's something you do want to sort of get used to.
Now, do you wear glasses?
I don't.
Okay.
No. But even and that's something that Google said there absolutely will be a prescription solution to it. And I would imagine because they have these guys, you'll be able to get these or whatever the final design is in prescription because it's on the outside of the spec. So to see it. And what's funny about these, the clear ones, because I mostly use these, and there's a voiceover friend I was in over the agency, and I was talking about it and stuff, and I said, you can throw these on. And he said, yeah, now you can look like you're from the future in the 80s.
Yeah, you do. That's so great.
So the design, I'm sure, will get better. And was it Warby Parker? the design. Google already hired him to,
and some of the concepts, like even some of the user concepts, like I saw, I doubt they were official, but a Ray-Ban inspired pair of Google Glass, and you're like, that looked so classic, and and it seems to work really well with how we already wear sunglasses.
And so the design, the fact that Google is hiring somebody like Warby Parker to come on board, for that they get it, that they get that you or I were fine with
I don't mind looking geeky.
Yeah, I don't care, and especially like without any glass whatsoever. It's actually more so. I sometimes throw on the clear ones just not to scare the to scare people. Because for some reason, if I throw on the clear ones that have no power or prescription or any kind, there really is no practical use to have these on. But for some reason, it just seems like they have more of a function. Right. It's not so.
Oh, that guy's wearing glasses. Wait a minute.
Yeah, it's not so Geordie LaFord.
Right.
But
or we could also go Deep Space Nine with the Jem'Hadar if we really want to nerd out.
Right. Yeah.
I apologize for making that reference.
Last Starfighter.
Yes. I mean, we've been wanting this for so long.
Yeah.
Science fiction has been presenting this as a possible solution for so long, and it's hysterical to me how wrong they've been. Like, I don't know, to really nerd out, there was an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation where they're examining, like, historical footage from someone who was wearing a camera.
Right.
On a head-mounted display. The camera is, like, bigger than a GoPro. Bolted onto the side of someone's head.
Right.
And you're like, that's supposed to be, like, 500 years in the future.
Right.
You're wrong.
You're wrong. That's not how it's going to happen. Yeah, and it really does function. I mean, to me, it does a lot of the things I wanted it to do from those things. Like what my idea would be, my idea of a functional, helpful, very usable heads-up display.
Right.
This comes for the first time I've ever had a product like this. For the first time, a
product has actually existed.
That's what I mean. That's even existed. It does a damn fine job of definitely starting the conversation.
Right.
It does. It more than gets us down. The first sector, the first level of what will come next. And it's
especially because I've been a little skeptical about the sort of explosion of smartwatches.
Yeah.
Which I don't think they get us far enough away from the same problems.
But yeah, I mean it's. I mean, size notwithstanding, that. Yeah, not even the size. I see it being a smaller.
It's a smaller version of the same problem.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of practical benefit. I don't see a big step in because just they're making a smaller version of this and allowing me to wear it here.
And they're making the argument, well, now I don't have to stop and pull my phone out to look at something, but I still. I mean, this is such a first world problem. I still have to. What you were talking about with classes. I still have to stop.
Oh yeah,
I still have to break away,
it's
and
totally
now I have to break away and look at an even smaller display.
Yeah,
which solves one problem at the expense of creating another.
Sure, and even in the course of our conversation, 3 text messages have come in, a couple different issues that I know that I just have it in my awareness now.
Right.
That are things that are going on in my world. We're doing the interview. I'm not going to break away, and barring like family member texting me or an actual emergency, we're doing this. But if I was just kind of out in the world doing regular stuff, or even now, even doing this, I have this in my awareness of the things that are going on in my world that I'm going to tend to later, or I know sort of I'm in the loop. I'm still in the loop, and I'm still in life. I'm still in this interaction.
Right.
And some of my favorite parts, like a lot of the time. I'll just be literally saying exactly that to somebody about the text message thing, and funny enough, a text message will come in, and I see, there you go.
Because then also we've gotten to that Pavlovian spot where even when you hear an alert, you're out to dinner with friends, and an alert goes off on someone's phone, and that's not your alert.
Yeah.
Everyone still looks to their phone.
Just in case.
Just in case.
They missed an alert earlier.
Right.
Yeah. And it's,
What is it that you might be looking forward to for revisions on the current hardware?
Yeah.
And where do you think like a Gen 2 might go with Google Glass?
I think because being part of the Explorer program, the customer service with Google is really, really extraordinary. They're very hands-on with the Explorer program. They want the feedback, and they have these cool little survey things. And so I actually put forward to them, starting with some small stuff, is just like little things that as you start to use them, you start to realize that it's actually very, very tricky to take a level picture with your face without a viewfinder,
right.
or without like crosshairs.
Right.
And so I've noticed that apparently
It's very hard for me to take a level picture with a viewfinder.
with a viewfinder, yeah, and because they're slightly
Not
crooked on your
perfectly,
face, or you
right.
stard to realize, wow, I lean my head to the side a lot, or, and so
I just totally checked my posture.
things you'd
right
never
now.
think of, and I
Right.
don't even know, because you put it out there as an explorer, whether or not other people are thinking this, or whether or not Google's even aware of small things, because it is new.
Right.
But the ability to not so much like preview the picture like a viewfinder, like I don't necessarily need that, because when you take a picture, it's pretty instant.
Right.
But the ability to kind of have a slight standby, even if it were like a level, like just an indicator, like a little.
Yeah, like on the 7D.
Yeah, like
where
on
it's
the
got
7D.
level. Yeah.
There are small things like that are software that Google is already improving. When I picked these up just a month and a half ago, it was Explorer Edition Software 4.
Right.
They're already on 7, 8's about to come out. That's a month and a half.
Right.
3, and big changes too as they go. I mean, they're really improving the software. And so there are things like that, better integration into Hangouts, because I use Hangouts a lot now for messaging and not just the video, but hooking it into Google Voice, all these things. So a lot of things like that. Overall, for the hardware, it's again a small thing that has a lot of practical use, much more than you'd go like, wow, right now I'd really love to be able to say, okay, glass, flashlight.
Because like an eye-level flashlight.
Yeah, because I use the lamp on my phone
all the time.
All the time. And so whether or not they build a flash in for the camera anyway, that you could actually do that.
Right.
But to have a little lamp that's tiny in size that goes right next to you, I'd love actually to have that. And then overall for the design, it's I'm very excited about just even what Gen 2 will be, because I know this is already very comfortable. You forget that it's there, and the way that the way
it's almost like people
piece,
have to remind you that you're wearing it.
Sometimes, yeah, and they do often. You can see it by the looks on people's faces right now.
Right. I mean, we're sitting around this cafe, and everyone is sure that we're taking pictures of them.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Recording video of them with our really fancy multi-phone setup here.
Just go on Instagram right now, and you're going to see pictures of us.
Look at this asshole over at Tiago.
Yeah, Tiago. Hashtag geekface. The ability to adjust up and down, that's a small thing. It comes in front of your eye this way, but to actually be able to adjust up and down,
Gotcha.
sometimes there's some flexibility there. It's interesting. It's hard to really kind of come up with exactly what that would be, because the things that are going to happen organically is that it's not going to help, but just like with the iPhone getting slimmer or iPad, it's going to get more sleek. It's going to get lighter. The battery life's going to increase. The battery life's already great. I have no problem with battery life.
You do like all day pretty well?
Pretty good, yeah. I mean, if I'm doing a lot of demonstration stuff, like if I'm using it a lot, it's kind of the more I talk to people about it, then the less my battery life's going to be, because I'm using it way more than I would normally. Normally. But it gets me through the day on normal life for sure.
Do you want like my nitpicky on this?
Yeah, go for it.
I just don't like that it's asymmetrical. I would actually be cool with another ear side that's just as thick to double the battery life, and then put in stereo bone conduction.
Yeah. And
that's just because I'm nerd enough to like be cool wearing something that's a little thicker.
Yeah.
Like around the sides of my ears. It just weirds me out that it's just like this hook shape that it doesn't like it looks to me like it would fall off the right side, of your face. Like, I don't want my face to be asymmetrical, so I don't want things on my face to be
and why not? It would add processing power and battery life. I mean, you just get added benefit. Why not? Immediately, right when I was there, they already know that the sound is going to be improved. Either the power of the conductive plates, or maybe even go stereo. Because I've found myself having, and there would definitely be toward the top of my list of issues with it, of criticisms that. I find myself plugging my ears a lot.
Right.
and that is hardly hands-free anymore.
Right.
You know, to have a conversation with this. But when I use it as like a Bluetooth headset to take a phone call, the sound is hard to digest because it's not in my ear, and so I'm getting the sound of the world at full volume.
Right.
And the single conductive plate.
Have you played with other bone conduction headsets?
I haven't. This is my first experience.
I just got a pair of Aftershocks.
Oh yeah.
And they're bone conduction headphones, and it's a startlingly unique way to interact with audio.
Yeah.
Because the whole thing is that it's a safety feature for people who work out,
Right.
so that their ears aren't blocked if they're jogging. You know, they're not going to get hit by a car or
Yeah.
something like that. And so that's kind of why I would want to see Google put stereo.
Right.
Because you sort of need that extra information.
Yeah.
Because your ears are still open to everything that's going on around you.
Sure.
Just because it's vibrating the sides of your head and sending information to your brain still, it doesn't mean that it's still not competing attention-wise with everything else that you can still hear.
It's definitely not optimal right now. And like I said, it's so much so that they even, almost before I even put them on, they get right in front of that and say, listen,
like, oh, okay, here's you.
We know about the sound. You know, so they're gonna, they have to find ways. It's nice to not have things in your ear. So I mean, to improve upon that technology, I think is a worthy pursuit. I think that is a more worthy pursuit than worrying about having to like dangle earbuds.
Well, and also, I mean, doesn't it break your heart? I mean, don't you want to scream every time you're driving around in traffic and you see someone driving with headphones on?
Right.
I mean, that's like a close second to staring at your phone while driving, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Because that's such valuable information. And so when I saw the design and I heard bone conduction, I thought that was genius.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's still so much information that we need to interact with, but it can't come at the expense of our natural senses. If this thing is going to be ubiquitous, if this thing is going to be just sort of an out-of-the-way observer, augment to how we interact with information, it can't deny us other pieces of information.
And I think it'll get there, because like when you experience bone conductive sound, like if you plug your ear, because it's interesting, you plug your ears to hear it better, because you hear it inside your head. But the nature of interacting with it, if you're in a totally quiet place or doing the plugging, it's cool. Like, I like it. I do like it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It just needs to be improved.
Yeah.
I really, really wanted to. Because the reason why I was in Biloxi and taking it was I was filming a movie, and I was on the set. And wanting to cover that experience of pictures of behind-the-scenes stuff or videos. So I might walk through the set and kind of put it to music. Just see what you could do with it, both as to document, to remember, to share with the world, and also to create creative content.
Right.
And that was the point of that video specifically. And even when I was doing it, I knew that I wanted to see what it would be like to take Google Glass video, or just Glass video,
well remembered.
Video content, and actually turn it into something. Like, what could I do with this? And I started to do like this first-person perspective thing of walking in a train, just to see what that would look like if you were wanting to tell a story with that, like from the killer's perspective or something, you know?
Like Strange Days.
Like
you brought
totally
up Strange Days, and I was like,
It's
now I just need to find a way to plug it into like
for playback.
Right.
Totally Strange Days. There's a lot of Strange Days elements to this thing.
Guys ready? Ready, sir. Take things. Ready. Everything you've got on your own. Action. Ready? Go. Done. Done. Done, guys. You okay? Yeah.
Having that experience, one thing I really wanted to do, because it's Google and it hooks into Google Plus so well, you can do Hangouts, but it's a video hangout with one person, right? Mm-hmm. You can call them up and they see your point of view and I see them here. It's really, really great, and it's like right off the promo videos, like watching sunrises with people watching and something. It's a lot of fun. The thing that I would love it to do is go that next step, which I think is where you start getting into really, really profound disruptive technology, which I love.
Right.
I love disruptive, and this would be that, where if I could either start or at least join, and you can't even join right now, but start or join a Hangouts on the Air.
Yeah.
Direct from Google Glass.
Yeah.
That's big, and I really wanted to do that when I was there. I was going to host
and be able to
Hangout.
live broadcast.
But yeah, I mean, events as they're happening, because you have everything from entertainment stuff to news stuff, things as they're
Journalism
happening
was
now.
my first being
has
able
such-
to be on the scene, on the spot,
Yeah.
2 button pushes, and you're able to get information to people who need it.
Yeah.
Well, you brought up like the Boston bombings, and we were out here in California, so how effective I was, probably not very helpful.
Right.
But a group of us were doing nothing all day, but funneling information to various family members and to various friends. And
wow.
are you stranded in
Yeah.
Boston? I've got 2 people on Reddit who say that they can put you up for the night if
Right.
you can't get back to your hotel room. Here, get in contact with this person.
The ability for any one of us wearing this to be able to go that live with
Right.
that kind of information, I think, and it's there. It's literally like Google could just decide, let's turn on that functionality.
Right.
Let's do that. And I actually sent it to them because while I was there, I was really trying to make it happen. And I tried to make the call. I thought that I had it set up where I could do. I was actually trying to set up a hangout on the air for my hotel room over Wi-Fi.
Right.
And then I was going to go to set and join the hangout from Glass as a second perspective there, and then I could invite a bunch of circles that wanted to join in, and it just
Right.
wouldn't do the call, it wouldn't connect.
yeah.
And I sent a message to Google saying, is this something that they could do? They wrote me back the next day saying a group of us got together. I love this. I imagine this like out of Apollo 13, where they all get in the room and they have a bunch of raw materials and they're like, okay, build an oxygen filter system, go, And I imagine they all got glass on. And they said a group of us got together and we ran a whole bunch of different scenarios, different experiments to see, because they didn't even really know.
Right.
They didn't even know if it was possible to join somehow, and maybe there's like a way to kind of circumvent. I guess they tried a bunch of different little things, and they said we ultimately discovered that no, we can't.
We can't.
And then they submitted me a whole report with pictures and pie charts. And
That's actually really cool that they're reporting back to their users like that, though.
Seriously,
That's really
it was
cool.
so badass. I just started my first sort of brand new endeavor, educational pursuit, just a project of mine. That I started the tabla, the Egyptian tabla, like doumbek drumming,
Right.
and brand new to it. It was something I wanted to do, and so I'm studying with this guy, Gamal Goma, big tabla player guy, and I told him I brought glass because I thought this might be interesting,
Right.
like just because my first. Because you do that. Yet now I have glass, so every time I approach something, I'm like, how does glass help, or how could it facilitate? From my perspective, you'll see that I have my drum here. He's there sitting across, and so now I can kind of take notes via video on the fly, where he's going to show me something.
Right.
And as an educational tool, amazing.
Because I started thinking about
implications.
like some of the choreography sessions that I've done.
Yeah.
In dance,
I was
being
thinking
able to like
doing
just
the
flip
step stuff,
and then
yeah.
like be able to share that with the entire choreography class.
Yeah. And he immediately got it. He'd never seen it before, but he immediately
cool.
got it. And he's like, okay, so turn on the video. And now we just turn it on, and I get to, hands-free, I get to drum like along with him in that moment from an educational perspective. And if you were in a classroom, like I'm not in a classroom right now, I totally use it. I was thinking that some language stuff, learning Japanese for Japan trip, which I can't wait to take these to Japan. Got to figure out my data plan situation, but for translation
it's not going to be
stuff,
pretty.
Okay, class. Google. Say I need a larger data plan in Japanese. There we go. We got this. Watashi wa dai kibona. Oh, see, I don't know my Japanese well enough to say this. But she said it to me. Maybe I can hold on. Yeah, watashi wa dai kibona di taboran ga hitusuyo.
Someone online will have to correct his
It was.
pronunciation. Just leave us a comment below the video.
Yeah, and just let us know how much we suck at Japanese. If you're in a classroom, just being able to snap notes of a blackboard with a bunch of, the end result of things, or a homework assignment. To finish, going back to the criticism thing, I'm just, at this point, I'm just sad that it's not a contact lens. I'm ready. That's it.
I'm a futurist like you in terms of I really do feel that there are positive applications towards things like we talk about the singularity, that transition. And I think wearable technology becomes that gateway towards us allowing our senses to be augmented.
Right.
I want to be ahead of the curve, and I know that society is going to have to catch up from my desires to be a cyborg, But
yeah, there's a fascinating divide between kind of what is supposed to be, what is acceptable in terms of the things the way we can augment. You're allowed to augment yourself if you have a deficiency.
Right.
So like if you're hard of hearing, you're allowed to improve
Wear a
your hearing. But if you have perfect hearing, it starts to be weird if you say, well, I want super hearing.
Right.
Like, well, why? Why can't I upgrade myself? I'm a totally healthy, normal human being. I just want upgrades.
Data is becoming a sixth sense. So people get really cranky when you take away their data.
Yeah.
So now moving that information into a state which is naturally closer to our organic senses, to me becomes that first step towards us being okay with augmenting our senses.
Yeah.
And once we're okay with augmenting our senses, that's where I really think this is all going to snowball.
Yeah.
Very, very quickly.
There's a lot of technology. The more seamless it gets in terms of the everyday life, or the improvement of us as a species. You know, like it's better that we have vaccines than don't have vaccines.
Right.
If you've got a vaccine traveling through your veins, you're augmented. That's technology, and I mean that's not natural. You wouldn't otherwise have that.
That resistance isn't. You don't get born with that.
Yeah, I mean, so you know, we're already augmented, and that's technology. And so this is, the more things happen like that, ideally there's not so much an idea of haves and have-nots, but just those that simply choose and don't choose.
So really, I think we're on that precipice of, okay, this is about as good as it's going to get for a slab of glass.
Yeah.
And what do we do now to make this information better? And so that's where I've been really excited to hear your thoughts on this piece of kit.
I love it. I dig it, and I really, really enjoy how much others seem to like it when they actually come in contact with it. You know what I mean? There's a difference in the perception and then the reality. And the perception is hesitant. It's very exciting to me when you throw it on somebody that is definitely not tech. You know, like grandpa or something.
Right.
Or, you know, just something that they're just very not necessarily naturally into that world. But you throw it on them and they get it. They get this, even if you know, they get this more than this. You know, or you show them that Easter egg of looking around a panorama of these pictures, and they understand why this
could be something really interesting.
Yeah, and why it kind of opens their eyes and go, oh, you know, this is not what I expected. I like this. What's that? What is this?
Oh, we've got someone to talk about, like right now. We're getting asked about Google Glass. I'll go ahead and kill the video. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you all on the next video. We're going to go talk Google Glass with someone at Tiago right now.
Google Glass, right?
Yes. It's Google Glass, and it's kind of a wearable computer that you see the information right in front of your eye.
And I swear we didn't plan it this way, but a pair of oral surgeons interrupted the end of our video to start asking Chris questions about Glass. And we spent another 10 minutes at Tiago showing these two around all of Glass's features. It seemed like a fitting end to our conversation. I really want to thank Chris for taking the time to chat about his experiences. And you'll soon see Chris in the feature film Artists Die Best in Black, which should be released in 2014. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll catch you all on the next video.